Danganronpa is one of those series that people really get into. I'm not going to pretend like I'm an exception to that. When I got into it many years ago, it dominated my brain for weeks, if not months on end. Of course, there hasn't been anything new to think about for many years recently. It would be nice if they made another one, but I don't think that's likely. With 100 Line Last Defense Academy by the Danganronpa creator recently releasing, it seemed like a good enough reason to look back and rank all the platinum trophies for every single Danganronpa game. Now you're probably sitting there thinking, aren't Danganronpa games basically all visual novels? Is there even any difficulty to rank? You are kind of correct. For the main games at least. These games also have side modes that are needed for the platinum that are more than just reading and doing the trials. This does have the unintended side effect that for this video I can quite easily avoid main game spoilers by just talking about the side modes mostly. It's not intentional, but it's a happy accident that I will happily take advantage of. I don't think there's any need to delay, so let's start this off with... I know I said we're mostly looking at visual novels, but this is the one exception. This is more of a third-person shooter, but honestly, it often feels more like a puzzle game, so we'll call it a third-person puzzle shooter action-adventure game. Gotta get action-adventure in there because that can be used for like 90% of games ever released. Unnecessary tangent aside, I actually quite like this game. Mostly for the puzzles, I'm not really much of a shooter guy. For the platinum, you can basically split the trophies into three. Story, which we'll ignore, collectibles, and grinding. This game sure has a lot of collectibles. There's books, notes, hidden kids, and technically chapter rankings too. Sure, we'll call them collectibles, why not? There are 5 hidden kids per chapter, but the other collectibles are not evenly split like that, so it's harder to tell where they are without a guide. The hidden kids also count towards your chapter ranking, which is sort of why I included the ranking in here with all the collectibles. I'm not even going to pretend that I found all the collectibles without looking at guides for help, but a fair amount are pretty easy to find. If you're struggling, load up a video and play along to get all the collectibles that you may have missed. Chapter rankings are decided by 3 things. Hidden kids, as mentioned before, but also the amount of retries used and the amount of puzzles you cleared successfully. Retries is simple enough, just don't retry anything, but the puzzles are interesting. Basically, if you mess up a puzzle, you will then need to shoot your way out and defeat more enemies to progress. I like this, it rewards the thinkers, but also still allows the shooter players to progress by bashing their head against the wall. The puzzles themselves are normally not too bad, but later chapters are harder, as they should be. All the solutions are obviously online if thinking is too hard for you. I won't tell anyone, you do you. Grinding is pretty simple. You get EXP and coins for defeating enemies, higher difficulties give you more. You need to hit max level as well as buying all the bling bullets and scissor upgrades from the shop. The best chapter for grinding both of these seems to be chapter 4, though it doesn't really matter, any enemy will give you stuff. Game is not that long. When I platinumed it the second time on the Vita, it took me under 13 hours. Yes, it will probably take longer when you go in blind, but still, definitely the shortest of the games we're looking at today. The first Danganronpa game is very much the easiest game of the mainline series. This is a good thing as it's the first one and is a really good introduction to what you're going to be getting into for the rest of the games. For the platinum, you'll spend most of the time in school mode, which is a more slice-of-life, dating sim-esque mode where nothing bad happens to anybody. This would go on to appear in later games under a different name every time, which we will get to later on. For this game, after beating the main story, the first thing you're going to want to do is fill out every character's report cards. What this entails is seeing all of the free time events for each character. Characters have different amounts, normally relating to how long they last in the main story, but you can use school mode to finish up the ones that you didn't get done in the main story without worrying about losing access to characters. After that though, you need to do school mode proper. Specifically, make sure you beat it once doing all of the tasks, which then lets you get the character endings. How this works is you need to max out your hearts with each of the 14 other characters, and then on the final day you can talk to them and they give you a unique ending and a gift. Sure, yeah, we'll call it a gift. You can thankfully do more than one ending per playthrough, so you don't need to play through this mode 14 times. 3 to 4 should be enough if you play well and optimally. After that, the main things left to do are get all presents and complete the gallery. All presents are unlocked by either playing through the main game, getting the endings in school mode, or from the Monokuma gacha machine. At this point, that just leaves the gacha machine, which you should have a lot of coins to use and hopefully fill out the present list. The gallery costs 941 coins to unlock everything, so grind coins if you need to. The only things that may be missing are the bad ending, which look it up if you need to know how to get it, and then a couple of events related to gifts that you may or may not have had going through the story naturally. Again, to avoid spoilers and maybe also demonetization for one of them, you can look the specifics up yourself. There may also be a couple class trial related trophies like take no damage, but once you know the answer, it's easy enough to redo it and get it easily. This applies to all the main games, so I'm mentioning it here so I don't need to mention it again for the other games if that is cool with you. And if it's not cool with you, I can't hear you. Danganronpa 2 has a lot of the same sorts of trophies as the first game, but it did add some unique things. To start with though, school mode is back, except this time it's called island mode, but it works basically the same, and the trophies related to it are also essentially the same as the first game. So I'll save us all some time by not repeating myself any more than I already do. For completing the gallery, it's also much the same, but there are more missable item related events than the first game, which you can look up yourself if you need to. Now's a good time to get to the added new stuff in this game. First off, every chapter has 5 hidden Monokumas around that you need to get for the trophies. Some of these can only be found during either free time or investigations, and if you miss any you will have to come back later in chapter select after beating the main story. There's also this Tamagotchi mode where you raise different pets and evolve them into different types, and you need to evolve them into every single type for a trophy. How this works is you raise the stats, either hope or despair, to a certain amount and then evolve it by just walking around, and a different one will pop out the cocoon once it evolves depending on what stats it has. This might take a while of just walking in circles, but it's not too bad, considering you need to also level yourself to level 99, which doing this will give you some EXP for. Final new mode to talk about is Magical Miracle Girl Monomi. In this mode you play as Monomi and defeat some enemies. As far as trophies go, you need to do all stages, but the harder one of the two is for finding every single item. These randomly drop from defeated enemies, but it can't be that simple, can it? Nope, of course not. Some only appear on certain stages, others can only appear on certain difficulties. If you go for this, do yourself a favor and have like a chart up on another screen of where each item drops, just to save manually having to check every stage. That sounds like a nightmare, to be honest. Imagine not getting a drop, so assuming it doesn't appear on that stage and then moving on and being really confused as to where it is. How on earth did anyone figure anything out before the internet? Well, guidebooks actually. They sold them for like $20 or whatever. That's how people did it. There is one item that also increases drop rate, so go for that one first if you can to make the rest easier. Overall, around the middle of the list for my personal favourite Danganronpa game sounds about right. Is there a correlation? No, probably not. You can certainly make an argument that there was no need for me to include this one, considering its trophies are just the same as the individual releases of both 1 and 2 but put together. So why is it on here? Well, technically there's actually one unique trophy for reading through Danganronpa if. It doesn't take long, it's just a visual novel with no choices, which I think is called a kinetic novel. I think that's right, I might be wrong. But that extra step combined with needing to 100% both games for 1 platinum clearly makes this harder than the individual releases of 1 and 2. But there's really nothing else to add that I haven't already mentioned. I guess a slight advantage is that the class trial related trophies, like destroying 500 white noise lines, counts across both games, so you probably won't need to grind it unlike in the individual releases. To be honest, the main reason I decided to include this on the list is so I don't get any clever clogged comments being like, lol, you missed the collection, that's a different trophy list. I'm on to you, okay? I bet you forgot about this one. Danganronpa S is essentially an expanded version of the Ultimate Talent Development Plan mode from Danganronpa V3. The game is split into 2 modes, development mode and battle mode. Your basic flow is you develop characters in development mode to use them in battle mode, and then getting further in battle mode lets you develop characters further by way of getting more items in the starting shop, allowing you to get to the further islands quicker and get more EXP and higher levels, as well as giving you currency to get more characters from the gacha. Basically, you don't need to worry about making super strong, well-built characters until you have U rarity characters, and also have gone through development mode with 50 different characters to get all the EXP and coin bonuses that gives you. It's also not like you can just build 4 characters the same way and rely on them to clear all 200 battle mode floors. Some enemies have resistances that may make physical attacks useless, as an example. There's also equipment you can craft in battle mode that needs you to farm enemies for materials, and that takes a while. In fact, it takes a while is the best way to describe this whole game. I mentioned the equipment, but there's also a trophy for crafting every piece of equipment, because why wouldn't there be? You also need to get every character card in the game. These are from the gacha machines, which you can use in-game currency to get. I have no idea the percentages off the top of my head, please don't ask. You also need to see all of every character's events. There are a lot of these, most of which are from friendship squares, so there's a good chance you'll just be replaying to get all of these and going for nothing else. I think also, if I remember right, some events are only available for S and U rarities, so it's probably best to not even bother grinding these out until you have the rarest form of the particular character you're going for at that time. I've not really mentioned the actual battle system much, and that's because the battle system is not what makes it hard, it's all the preparation. Simply put, if you don't have the right setup, you will not win. You need to play with resistances and shields and different roles to do this. You know, like a normal RPG. If I had to give some more generic advice, always take the risk. For example, there's a random event for a surgery in development mode that, if successful, will dramatically increase your stats. Yes, it can fail and massively reduce stats, which you should absolutely reset if it happens to you, but the benefits of a success are too big to overlook. I would also look up character builds yourself. I am not the person to give you these. It's something I've never been good at in any game. I do think this game probably takes the longest of all the Danganronpa games, but most of it isn't too hard. It's just repetitive and mind-numbing. Maybe watch a good TV show or something while we're doing this one. Probably the most divisive Danganronpa game, and if you've played it, you know why. It's certainly the one I have the most mixed feelings about. For the trophies, hidden Monokumas are back and work much the same as they did in Danganronpa 2. This game has a mode similar to School and Island mode called Love Across the Universe. There are more differences to be sure, but the objective remains the same. Max everyone's affection for the true ending. There's also the Love Key, which lets you spend the night playing Scrabble with another character, and you need to do this with everyone. There's also a casino, which is full of mini-games that you need to get the highest rank on. Requirements can be looked up yourself, but writing this unlocked a repressed memory of doing this goddamn fish fossil excavation game. I remember getting so frustrated trying to do this over and over again. I remember being on a call with my friend and I was just losing my mind. I don't know if there's any way to guarantee getting this. I don't know if there's like spreadsheets with different, oh, if this appears here, you can pick this spot. No idea. I'm going to say that if you get unlucky spawns, you just can't get enough for the S rank. Not enough points. It sucks and almost stopped me from platinuming this game. For me, it was that one trophy. But that's not the only reason keeping this game at the top. Oh no. It is probably the biggest one though. There's also the Ultimate Talent Development Plan and related modes to it. A lot of this is very similar to Danganronpa S, which I've already talked about. As I said, that game was based off this mode. You need to clear the development mode with every character again, as well as getting all the cards from the gacha, similar to Danganronpa S. The battle mode is only 100 floors in this one, and I personally found it a lot easier than Danganronpa S's equivalent. Very similar strategies apply though, in getting as far as you can but not worrying too much until you can start getting the U rank cards. Interesting thing I learned when researching this is that the percentage chance of getting a higher rarity from the gacha actually increases the further up the tower you are. So it's all connected and feeds back into making it easier for you to clear the mode. All Presence is here again and needs more work than ever before, with some being tied to the bonus modes mentioned as well as in the gacha like other games. This game also has the most expensive gallery at a whopping 2,430 coins. Considering you can only hold 999 at one time, make sure you're not capped like ever. Like previous games, there are some events locked behind having certain items which you can look up, but there is also another thing you have to pay attention to in regards to character bonds, specifically ensuring that they are maxed at all times. I can't be any more specific than that. Overall, V3 probably has the most varied amount of stuff you need to do for the plat, and a lot of it either takes a while or in some cases, it's just really blooming hard. No, I won't forgive the treasure hunter minigame. You can't make me, you won't make me. And that's the video. Did you agree with my ranking or would you have switched things around a little bit? How many of these do you have and what's your favorite of the games? Let me know all that and more in the comments, and while you're down there, why not subscribe? It's free, helps me out, and gives you easy access to all my videos, both old and new. Thanks for watching. For now though, I'm off. Hunt them trophs, and I'll see you next time.